Ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs, welcome to the Beacon TVL show. I am your host, Professor Chris, the DeFi Professor. We got a great show lined up for you today as we talk about the news that matters to you, our beautiful, beautiful audience in the world of decentralized finance. Let me pull up the stage with my co-host. Got DJ Waxy G, Robert Williams. How are you, sir?
Good, sir. Good.
Wonderful, wonderful. Oh God, man, this. Ugh. Trying to move some stuff around because my window's all funky, and I can't move it because it's literally. There we go. It's literally wedged to the top of the menu bar. Of course, that's going to happen. 1 second. Let me get the. Let me get everybody who wants to see this, seeing it. Man, we've got what an interesting week it's been, Robert. I know it's been 2 weeks since you've been on the show, but let's kind of just give me an idea of what your take has been on just what's happening in the world of crypto over the last couple of weeks.
Well, from what I can see, looks like the war in Iran has put everything on pause. We're a non-political show, but yeah, it's definitely got everybody in wait and see mode.
Definitely wait and see mode. We'll take a look at the markets in a minute, but yeah, I mean, I guess for like just in terms of how you've been looking at the market, with your lens. I mean, there's been a lot of market manipulation. There's been a lot of movement with regards to how people are just getting. Well, I mean, let's just be honest. The president has been very manipulative with his talks with regards to the market. There's been all kinds of. There's been a lot of movement just for. I think over the weekend, right? That we just had movement where with the war in Iran, he said something at one moment, and then he very much waited until the end of the end of the market close to talk about something else. What's interesting about that is, oil has. What's interesting, and we talked about this last week. Oil has been very good for commodities traders. They've been able to use either just the regular exchange or Hyperliquid specifically has completely benefited from what's happened with the war. In fact, I think they passed 5 billion in daily volume yesterday, thanks to oil as one of the leading commodities on the HIP3 market. So, yeah, man, huge things about that. What are your thoughts about commodities right now and just the access that everyday people can have on using it?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, in terms of what's been happening with oil, it's become a meme at this point that Trump posts on Friday after the markets close, right? So
Right.
always makes crazy announcements that nobody can react to. But that's why I think Hyperliquid is cool, where you can trade commodities now. I think that's one of the options, right? Where you
Yeah.
can trade commodities on chain. So, and those are 24/7. So that's
It is 24/7, right? So, and that's the other part I wanted to make is that he's not going to have this opportunity for much longer because with the
yeah.
New York Stock Exchange coming out with their digital exchange using Chainlink's 24/5 pricing oracle,
Hmm.
the markets will be open 24/7, but it's going to be one where the markets are going to be open 24/7. Anyone can trade at any time. So, not that the U.S. market is like the end all be all global market, but traders from all around the world would be able to trade on top of that, and it's going to be a very interesting intersection. Uh, there's an actual article I'm looking for. I'll put up in just a second, but from a world standpoint, because for those who don't know, Robert is not technically in the U. Well, he's not in the U.S. Not technically, he's not in the U.S. So, but he's an
On the list.
American. He's an American citizen. So, looking at how the markets have been reacting from where you are outside the U.S. What sentiment wise are people talking about this?
In Mexico, for example,
Yeah.
no, not too much. I mean, there's like the normal chatter on social media, but in terms of like much of a reaction nationally, there's not too much out there. Um, the peso's been affected.
Yeah. Tell me about
Uh,
that.
I mean, I don't know the exact mechanics, but I know, I think Mexico is very obviously oil dependent,
Hmm.
and so a lot of the value of the peso is tied to that. And so the peso actually weakened against the dollar recently a little bit because of that. But that's the most impact I've felt here locally.
So, what would you say is the biggest? What are the biggest drivers of news? Like, if there's anything crypto or anything DeFi in Mexico right now, what is that news?
To be honest, I'm not very plugged in locally.
Okay.
Yeah, to be honest, yeah. Yeah, I know there's a growing community here. It's still smaller, and there's been a few people migrating here from the US as well on the crypto side of things. But I haven't really tapped into the network too much yet.
I know there's a lot of builders that are out that way, so it's always
Yeah.
good to see. Um,
Mhm.
I asked that because we had Ryan from Web3 Iloilo in the Philippines on a couple weeks ago, and he's also an ambassador for Base Philippines. So there's a specific. Well, that's not. That was weird. There's specific news that he's sharing with me that I find fascinating, and I want to pull that up real quick because I think it is, just it's always good to get outside perspectives. And the one thing that he mentioned to me is that uh, the Philippines, even though they're very forward with regards to blockchain, they have their own they have their own private national blockchain now that they have put their economic and treasury data into, and their treasury data is on chain. So this is very interesting when I saw this because I actually reposted it and put a little bit of context on it. They're talking about a specific, I don't know the full context, but what he did was he took a lot of profits from his company, he converted it from Philippine pesos into Bitcoin, and then moved it off chain. And people were trying to figure out, is that legal? Why
Mhm.
would they take that money and then convert it to cryptocurrency and make it quote unquote off chain? And there's something to be explained here by this. So the part that's interesting here, and I'll just play it so you can read the. I'm not going to have the sound on, but you can just see. Yeah, you can see the facial expressions about how they were able to freeze some of the assets that were cryptocurrency assets and then recover them. Again, I don't know if this is like money laundering, anything like that. It's not a good optic overall when you have people talking about crypto in this way or digital assets. Uh, and so they talked about a cold wallet here and transferring billions of pesos, taking it out of the country and offshoring it, like in these like to quote what they called safe havens, like the Seychelles and stuff like that. So there's two parts to this story that probably need to be explained so people can understand that this is the way the system is supposed to work. And while you get messages from, people like Elizabeth Warren, right, who mentions that people are using crypto for drug trafficking, for all these terrible things and terrorism, this kind of ties into that narrative. The point that we're trying to make with when we talk about this, Robert, right, is that nobody owns this financial subsystem that we call decentralized finance. The reason why you'd want to convert some of your money, your fiat currency, into a digital asset currency is because it is A, anti-fragile, and B, censorship resistant, especially in areas where you are in a hyperinflationary environment. For example, like there are places around the world where the dollar is either strengthening or weakening against your currency. It could be in times where it's not economically feasible to hold your fiat currency because you're losing so much purchasing power. So converting it to a stable coin or some other type of digital asset to then hold in cold storage, and then when they say offshore, I mean, yeah, you can actually off ramp that money anywhere in the world that you like, depending on how you have your banking structure set up, right? So let's say you're using an online bank like Wise or Revolut is another example, or let's say you're using neobanks, which is a new thing here in digital assets, where you have fully on chain movement of money that happens, lightning fast, but then the actual money coming into where you can spend your money also is instant. That these are all things that are very important in my opinion moving forward. So, I mean, you are bankless, so you understand how you understand very intimately how that works.
Hmm.
But to paint this picture that moving your money that you can actually hold yourself as digital assets and moving it back and forth as a bad thing, I think is absolutely absurd. This is the system that is going to be here in the future and the system that everyone's going to have to adjust to. The fact that, they're looking they're saying that it's a bad thing that they were able to take their assets and move it into crypto and then move it quote unquote offshore. We're going to have bad actors in this space. Even good, but here's the thing. It's not bad to have control of your money and move it places. The fact that you have the freedom to do so is the true financial freedom that matters to most people in this space with decentralized technology, right?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, that's always been the ethos of crypto
Yeah,
for a long time. I mean, but I mean, it's I mean, crypto's still relatively niche, whatever the word is. Um, but as it becomes fully mainstream, like as the tokenization of assets and stable coins become even more completely mainstream and proliferated, uh, there is going to be a massive campaign to demonize people self-custodying their assets. I
exactly.
mean, even more so than we've already seen. I think it's going to be you know a huge effort to funnel everybody into these custodied platforms.
It's funny as I saw a quote on the timeline this morning. It said, um, "CEXs, not your keys, not your crypto. RWAs, not your uh, not your assets, not your crypto." I think is what it said. I cackled because I was just like, I mean,
Yeah.
he's not wrong. Not wrong, because it's definitely not your assets. I mean, they're either tied to T bills or in some cases, fine collectibles, distressed real estate, all kinds of different things. Um, in fact, there's a really awesome project that I'm going to be doing some content on this week for it's on Base called Driven Labo. Shout out to Rex and the guys at Driven Labo. They're doing fractionalized ownership of bringing luxury cars on chain. So that's I think it's a pretty interesting idea. I don't know too much about it. That's why I'm doing the content. I'm going to be doing some research on it. But yeah, I mean we're bringing everything on chain at this point, right? So that's the part that people need to embrace is that bringing assets on chain is not bad. There's
Yeah,
going to be yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I always wanted to own 5% of a Lamborghini and not be able to drive it.
Exactly. Even if I did for like 30 minutes, yeah, I'm good. That's fine. But we'll see exactly how the RWA infrastructure moves its way on chain. Like right now, the vast majority of RWAs are based on either U.S. Treasury bills or gold. There's going to be some other ones that are coming out. Real estate is distant third, but those are going to be the biggest things out there. And soon we're going to see commoditized reinsurance is actually getting very big right now. So disaster type of reinsured, so taking insurance that people buy and then reinsuring that on the secondary market, that's being tokenized right now with a couple different projects across a couple different ecosystems, Solana and Ethereum. So excited to learn more about how more things that I guess should be on chain. Mainly for the main reason why we like things on chain, Robert, is because it's immutable, right? So you can't manipulate things. That's why the government showing transparency with GDP and economic data available every quarter on chain on 12 different blockchains now, thanks to Pyth and Chainlink, is big. Moody's, we talked about this last week. Moody's is coming on chain through Canton Network, and that's also going to be big as well. Not that it matters, because if you watch The Big Short, I mean, it doesn't matter what happens once it comes on chain. It's all about what happens before it comes on chain in terms of the accuracy and how tested that information is. Let's go ahead and move over to the markets real quick. We haven't actually talked about that part, but like we've talked about, Robert, for the past couple months. I think this is a time where we're going to see some rangy sideways crab market type stuff. And again,
Mm.
I think all of this depends, if I'm being honest, on how long this conflict in Iran plays out. You have the president sitting here saying that the war is over, we've won the war, yet it looks like they're going to be putting boots on the ground this weekend in Iran, because Iran has said that they don't want to deal with Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff anymore. So, I mean,
Classic misdirection.
yeah, I mean, it's kept the market very, very rangy, which is fine, I suppose. Um, if that's your game. I mean, it's good for LPs, it's good for Delta Neutral because we haven't seen a ton of real movement here. I guess this is a lot farther apart than I wanted it to be. Wow. Okay. I just wanted the day view. That was the day view. That's interesting. Um, anyway, regardless, we're seeing this ranginess continue to move forward. So as long as we continue to see that, there we go. That's what I wanted. As long as we're in this area where we can kind of keep this ranginess around here, I mean, this is good eating for LPs. This is good eating for Delta Neutral. This is for concentrated liquidity specifically. Being able to trade well in a market like this, or at least profit off the behavior of trading well in this market, is a good sign. All things considering, because with issues, with Ukraine and Russia, with uh, with Iran and Israel. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going on here that could tank the market. Well, and in a way, it kind of has for traditional markets. I mean, we saw another huge amount of blowback bringing more money out of the traditional markets, but cryptos continued to stay fairly buoyant. So decoupling continues, and I do hope that we see a little bit more strength. And we'll talk about BitTensor in a little bit because if anything, that's gotten the most amount of love out of anything
Hmm.
over the past couple of weeks. I don't know what Siren is, but it looks like it's some type of game. Oh, it's BSC. Is this an AI? Yes, it's an AI agent. Interesting. Also, and it's not the agenda. Virtuals has expanded to both BNB, base, not base, BNB, Polygon, and Arbitrum over the last couple of days. So agentic. What's the best way to describe virtuals? Launchpads at this point are starting to make their move across multiple ecosystems. So we'll talk a little bit about the agentic moves in just a minute, but gosh, I mean, we've got all of these interesting narratives kind of coming to a head, Robert. We've got agentic, we've got perps, we've got prediction markets and AI underlying all of it. So, man, when I think about it, it's like people keep talking about how people have just kind of left the scene. I don't think they left the scene more as they're staying quiet and they're building using these new tools. What are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, I feel the same. I feel like people are kind of feeling out these kind of new sectors and paradigms kind of converging, and like because no one's really clear on the overall market direction.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they're not like as active on like crypto Twitter, for example, as you would see. Like that usually follows like it's usually correlated with over like a big bull market, right? And
Right.
so, but it is true, yeah, people are setting up their automated workflows. They're experimenting with agents. Many projects are launching automation in DeFi and trading. So I think that's prepping the groundwork. I mean, I think the general sentiment, even though things are pretty quiet, is that if you're not using AI assisted tools in your trading or in seeking yields or anything like that, like you're screwed. like I mean, yeah. I
Well,
mean,
it's
maybe
not that
maybe not.
you're screwed, right? It's more of a timing thing.
Yeah, I mean, especially in trading, you're probably on the wrong end of the stick. DeFi and looking for stable yields might be a little bit different because you can always do those manually. That's not really that big of a problem. Although the AI agentic, side of that, just optimizes it for you automatically, right? So,
Yeah, or like the rebalancing of it, right? So
mhm.
if you can code, it's still very manual, right? Even with
Mhm.
agents, you have to be very specific on what you're looking for. I mean, we talked about PancakeSwap.ai 2 weeks ago. That is something that's out now that we'll be able to use agents for that. And because that's happened, we're going to see accelerated building in that manner. That's been the
Mhm.
one thing ever since OpenClaw has come out, right back in January. It's just like full speed ahead. Everybody's sending skills. I mean, the whole skills infrastructure has just been an unbelievable catalyst, in my opinion, in terms of what's going on now. So
Yeah.
we're going to see a lot of movement here quickly, and I do think before the end of the year, we won't even have to make trades. I mean, not trades. We're not going to have to worry about making positions manual anymore. I think we can just literally type into an agent, find me this, and they'll go and grab it, and then they'll ask how much you want to put in, and maybe some entrance and exit tolerances, and you can start doing concentrated liquidity. You can do fixed rate farming with Pendle. You can do all kinds of big LP things that would take a long time. It's just going to be at the tip of on your fingertips. Sorry. So I'm
Yeah.
really excited. I'm really excited to see what happens here.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, just to clarify, I think like what I'm really referring to is on the trading side, because if you look
Yes.
at like the very narrow and small bull market of late 2024, early
Mm-hmm.
2025, the rotation between these AI agent coins and meme coins was like incredibly fast,
Yes.
and so if that's a preview or a harbinger of things to come, then if you're looking to make money on the upside for different altcoins for different projects, or do trading, I think it's probably going to need agents involved in some way to help you rotate faster and catch opportunities.
If it comes to
Yeah.
things like prediction markets and arbitrage, you won't have a choice, right? Because it's like, yeah, you could do it manually and you're just having a good time, but if you want to be actually competitive and actually, streamline your profit, it's going to come to a point where uh, you're going to need help. With
Yeah.
that said, I mean, I'm seeing regular people with no coding skills come out with full scripts to do all this stuff, and it's pretty insane how a $100 a month investment in Claude Pro
Mhm.
can can do a lot of things for you. Obviously, not financial advice. Do your own research. It's going to be very interesting to see how this works out. Now, the one thing that you need if you're going to be doing this is a wallet. That's been the missing piece. And that kind of segues into our first story here. So, MoonPay, friend of the show, follows me on Twitter. Hello, MoonPay. Love you. The one thing that we've seen a lot of, right, is agentic frameworks. We have Coinbase doing X402. Stripe last week when they greenlit mainnet for Tempo, their layer one. They also greenlit a new uh, thing they call Machine Payments Protocol, MPP, much like when they disrupted e-commerce 15, 20, well, yeah, 15 years ago, roughly. I'm sure I have the time wrong. But if you had a website, you could accept payments with 7 lines of code that you just put into your website, and then boom, you're taking credit card payments. You are fully in the e-commerce system. Now you can do that with agents. They have a function that's literally about 10 lines long that gives you the power of Stripe. And with Stripe, you're not only just getting the ability to accept payments, you have the ability to do subscriptions, uh, retries, all of that. Granted, they haven't lowered the merchant fees, but if they do that, I mean, that is going to be some major disruptive power. Or, with if Visa or Mastercard also do it, because Mastercard rolled out their partner program, they're now over 100 partners in their crypto partner program, which has everybody. The problem is you still need a wallet. And before it was like, well, you could use Privy to get a wallet like that, but MoonPay went ahead and open sourced their wallet standard. And it talks about the three major ones. So MPP from Stripe, A2A, which is Google's agent to agent protocol, and then Coinbase's X402. These are all being built in the open, by the way. They're all open source, they're all free to use. But the problem is it assumed that your agent already has a wallet. If you don't have one, how do you do that? Now, you can go out and get a wallet. It's not hard. That part's, if you're a developer, that part is very easy to put together. X402 needs EIP 3009. That's part of the agentic, let's call it an agentic passport for agentic identity that you need to provide authorization. Open Wallet Standard has all of that already baked in, right? So there's a private key that is never seen by the agent. And because they're using a central standard with one mnemonic using Bitcoin Improvement Protocol 39, BIP 39, which is the dictionary. The fun fact about BIP 39 is that I believe there's 10 languages that you can have a seed phrase in if you didn't know that. You can't mix and match languages. They all have to be in the same language. I was like, man, if that was the case, granted, if you even could do that, I have no idea how to even have that type of world keyboard on my keyboard, right? If I was going to be redoing my thing, but this is interesting because this means this is the one mnemonic every chain. This is Bitcoin, EVM, Solana. Let's even go Algorand, eGold or Multiverse X. Anything that supports seed phrases, Near, Cosmos. You can have one mnemonic that will generate a gazillion different ecosystem addresses for you. That, of course, comes back to the whole point about making sure that your seed phrase is absolutely airtight safe. There's also a private key that's run kind of like how Google and Apple Pay work, where it's just rotating. Agent will never see it. It gets wiped right afterwards, so it's always a temporary number. So, and it uses Rust, which is supremely fast, much faster than Python even. Yeah, this is all very interesting. I think this in a way is the missing piece, but regardless, it just provides an open standard that anyone can use, and that's the part that is probably the most critical, I think, to the agentic movement so far. What do you think, Robert?
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, just like it's great to see this being built.
And you've worked at a wallet company, so
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we weren't big enough to to build out this kind of infrastructure, but
hmm you don't have to
yeah,
anymore.
yeah, you don't have to. It's already it's there now. Yeah. So yeah, but it's cool. I mean, like it's just it's over. It's just it's what the space needs. I mean, like I mean, it's I know it's specified towards agents, but like the fact that it's fully cross chain and multiple languages and all these different things. It's like just it's just the rails that are necessary.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So this is good for the agentic piece. Granted, that's not really the consumer-facing piece because agents will just be doing things in the background for everyday things, right? I'm not expecting and it would be foolish, by the way, for regular people, to go and deploy agents as traders. Very much not what you should be doing, ever, in my opinion. People ask me all the time. Sorry, I just was like mid hiccup or something, so it almost sounded like I know people are like, "Did he just stutter like an AI person?" I'm like, "No, that's just me holding my breath because I almost hiccuped." Um, yeah, I don't think you should be using agents for things like full speed, high frequency trading. I think it's a bad idea. One thing we say here at Beacon, with what we do is, bots are great until they're not. Because people ask us all the time, "Why don't you use more bots?" I'm like, because at the end of the day, you should know how this works, right? Even if you're using an agent, you should know how this all works so that if the bot messes up and suddenly you're down a ridiculous amount of money, you can kind of figure out where it went wrong. And that I think that's kind of the bigger lesson here, is that you're getting this standard for agents, and this could be for anything. So let's say that let me give a crude example. Let's say that you are looking for leads, right? You can have an agent that goes out and contacts people, and based on, let's say let me just use the example that you just scraped Etsy for people who have bought uh, beautiful flowers from a fake flower designer. Is that the right word for fake flowers? I don't know. Anyway, and the agent is going out and sending emails. You can use that with the open wallet standard and existing standards to get all that happening. The part that was really just holding you back was, how do you create the wallet? Now you have that with the open wallet standard. So we should see pretty quickly some full stack apps coming out that do a lot of things on your behalf in everyday things. That's the other part that's probably the most interesting, right, Robert, is that this is not just a crypto or DeFi or digital asset thing. This is meant to be in everyday usage for most people. I mean, this can do a lot of things for you, right? So like the what was the example? Was it the example with the original Google example where it goes and like makes reservations for you and stuff like that? Soon that's just going to be the baseline example. Soon you'll be able to have agents take care of a lot of things for you, maybe even um, travel, all of that kind of thing, taking care of your insurance. I see a lot of like different use cases just seeing that this come out. So what do you think are some decent use cases, Robert, from this?
The ones that I've seen have been like ordering Uber Eats and DoorDash and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it could basically manage your finances as well. I mean, it can I mean, there's already bill automation through banks and stuff like that, but
Yes.
um, but you can put everything in one place here. I think potentially it could be like a hub for where you can manage everything all in one place, pretty much. I think.
Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, that's MoonPay. Giving, contributing, right? That's a good word to use. They're contributing. Does this mean that there's probably going to be a paid version of this? Oh, most definitely. If you want services that are set up for you automatically with all this put in, you're going to pay for it. But it's going to be open source for anybody who wants to build on top of it. So I'm excited, of course, to see what's going to be built on top of it moving forward. Uh, Stepping to the side a little bit. So this is actually a little bit of sad news. So when we see a new era for Balancer, ultimately, these are two specific, um, well, they're just mandates that people get to vote on. I don't see any reason why they would fail, to be honest, because they're worded in a way that are going to change things for Balancer, very much for well, for the survivability case. Essentially, Balancer Labs is going to be winding down. They're cutting their staff in half. They are going to be renaming to OPCO, I believe is the name, and they're going to be essentially keeping the DAO, consolidating a lot of things, and then they're going to be changing tokenomics. What this means is balancer emissions are going to end. The BAL token, BAL, VE BAL, which is the vote escrow token, where you could use it to vote for which pools get certain incentives. That's also going away. I think they said there's going to be a 500K fund specifically put aside to compensate anyone who held VEBAL for locked in for longer than 6 months. So it'll probably be proportional to how much VEBAL you had, but it's up to 500K specifically. It will be splitting. So in essence, after their unfortunate exploit for V2 back in late 2025, which was so interesting because it was V2, even though Balancer is already on V3 of their protocol. It was an older smart contract. It was so bad to the point that Barrett Chain, which has a lot of it in its core based on Balancer V2, had to do an emergency hard fork network upgrade to get that to go through, to get the entire blockchain back online, which is crazy. So we've gone from a sad exploit to now Balancer is gone, essentially. So they still have to vote on it. But man, I mean, the title of today's show is DeFi is transforming in front of our eyes. I mean, and we'll talk about a couple other things too. I mean, this is the end of an era in a way, Robert. That yeah, it was really surreal for me to read that.
Yeah, they've been around for a while, like since 2020 at least, right? Or
Yeah,
2021.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. They're one of the original yield optimizers along with Beefy. Except
Hmm.
they took it in a different direction from Curve, right? They're kind of like Curve. They had Aura Finance, which is kind of like their version of Convex. This kind of bones Aura holders, honestly. But what do you do when we're in a situation where we have multiple crypto protocols cutting their staffs, 20, 50% in some cases, mainly for sustainability, right? For survivability. Polkadot, the same thing. They capped their supply and cut off a bunch of operations. So, yeah, I mean, we always knew that we were early, right, brother? And it's like things were going to be changing to what we see as the final form. But I didn't think the balancer would not be in that picture. So,
Yeah, that's crazy to see.
yeah, crazy to see. People are worried the same thing about Aave. And Aave is going to continue. I don't have that article here, but I do have this one article I wanted to talk about, which is this is from just before we came online. I thought it was interesting. If you are part of WAP, which is a gated, a way to build community with content using, you can actually get yield. I don't know how this is going to happen. I don't know how this is going to happen. I think this is interesting with Plasma and Veda Labs through vaults. If you have a WAP, okay, so this is actually for people who actually run WAPs. Huh. Huh. Okay, that's interesting. So for the business owners who utilize WAP, their whole treasury can earn yield while it sits there. What do you think about that? We've looked at WAP. We've never actually gone through with it, but it's something we looked at.
I'm not too familiar with it, to be honest. Isn't WAP like a kind of like a social dashboard also, or is that something else?
That's something else. No, I mean overall with WAP, it's like you can have an online business and then put a gate in front of it using WAP.
Oh, okay, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so basically, if you want to charge a subscription, you can hide all the things that you want subscribers to see behind the paywall there at WAP. So if you are in a position where you're already earning on your online business using WAP, you can now use DeFi rails to earn up to, I guess it says 6%. I'm assuming that's in stable coins. That's what it would be, in my opinion. You're not like putting into ETH or anything like that. So yeah, this is I'm assuming this is also opt-in. So the treasury's in USDT. Did I just see USDT? Wow, good for them. Oh, because it's on Plasma. Yes, it's USDT. That makes a lot of sense because Plasma is just USDT. Well, so if anybody sets up a business or has a business on WAP, let me know. I've been looking for a little bit for some other things, but as a business owner, your treasury can earn. I mean, imagine if you had a business treasury that earned 6% while business is going on, especially if you're doing pretty well. Let's say you're doing 100,000 or even $1 million, ARR annually. That's pretty good. All right. The other thing I want to talk about, Visa is bringing things to Canton Network. Not shocking. But they're joining Canton as a super validator. There's only a couple of these super validators that they have. So it's interesting that Visa is now one of them. That's good. I mean, obviously there's a couple others. We talked about another group probably like 2 months ago becoming a super validator on Canton. But what it tells me, and this is something what we talked about at the beginning of the show, people still see, what this industry provides is like hiding things, right? Or just like against what we currently know that is the right thing to see. Groups like MasterCard having 100 crypto partners in their network, PayPal doing huge things, Visa bringing privacy preserving payments to Canton Network, being a part of their infrastructure as a super validator. I guess the question I have, Robert, is like, what do you think it's going to take for everyday people to understand that when you see big juggernauts like this come into the scene, we're not talking about edge cases anymore. We're not talking about, oh, that seems like a fun experiment. We're talking about this is the way, and we've said this for, how many times have I said this for years, Robert? DeFi is the future of finance. DeFi is the future of how we'll be doing business. This is the future of how people are doing business, guys. Already. And we're only 3 months into 2026. And 2026 is the year of integration. 2018 to 25 it was about disruption, ideation, implementation, integration now to make TradFi and DeFi come together. So it's now just Fi. How many more things do they need outside of what the president's been doing?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm like curious. I'm like, people still say that crypto and digital assets are funny money. I'm like, what else? What other votes of encouragement are you going to need to even just give it a try, right? Because, and maybe they won't have to. Maybe they'll just get new products that are based off of, well, they will. I mean, they're already getting it, right? They're getting same day settlement on quite a few things, instant settlement in some cases, right? So they'll just be doing business as usual, but it'll just be faster. I guess the question is like, how do you tell the general public, guys, you also have a seat at this table. You can do this as well. You don't have to leave it up to the big groups like Visa, MasterCard, and PayPal.
I think there's a certain segment of the population that just isn't equipped to. I mean, there's a certain segment that is potentially equipped to self-custody their assets and take control of their financial future. But but there is a certain segment that just like they only respond to authority, and they want their they want their finances to be run through centralized authorities because that's what they've been conditioned to want. I mean, not to get too philosophical, but I think that's the real limit to uh, who is just waiting for these products anyways, and who won't even notice necessarily that they're using crypto rails. It'll be on the back end, and these will be like the last consumers to adopt it. And then there's a growing but limited portion of the population that is willing to explore these avenues in DeFi and having control of their assets.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just interesting how the news is being spun, right? Reason I say that is for, and again, some shout out to Eleanor Tourette. We've been following her quite a bit on a lot of this stuff because she's had a really good inside look into a lot of this. So with the Clarity Act, which was supposed to be like this grand entrance of DeFi into the norm, right? Um, that didn't happen. That was supposed to be already passed. They had till the end of February. Didn't happen. They have now until I want to say April 3rd, but at the same time, if it doesn't happen by April 3rd, I still don't think it happens this year because of everything else going on the congressional calendar. Plus, they've got the midterms this year. They're gonna take their resources and put them elsewhere. So, what's interesting is that you keep hearing that they've reached a deal. They've reached a deal. The problem with this deal is that if you listen to this reporting, passive stablecoin balances is a non-starter and will not make it into the final deal for Clarity, which kind of upsets the apple cart, at least from the DeFi side, right? From the bank side, they're like, this is exactly what we wanted. In fact, I saw something on the timeline. I forgot which. I want to say it. I don't want to misquote somebody. There's someone who is the CEO of a very major bank said the future of crypto goes through banks, and I completely disagree with that take, because everything that's happening in crypto is the antithesis of banks and institutions, right? It's ironic that there's been so much front running of institutions of the retail public, because DeFi was meant to be the system that anybody could go into and have a say, have a piece of that, right? Free markets. But you're seeing a bunch of institutions come in, understanding, knowing exactly what the benefits of DeFi are. They're setting up shop in DeFi, and they're trying to stick it to all of us as users by limiting what we can and can't get yield on, regardless of the fact that nobody owns anything here in DeFi. No country owns these spaces, these mesh computers that are called blockchains that run all of these systems. Circle did go down 20% almost yesterday due to the latest draft. And everybody's starting to back out because this does affect Circle in a way, right? To say that it doesn't would be, that's a little bit of a reach to say that it doesn't. Overall, they'll be
Yeah.
fine. Go ahead.
No, it does for sure. I mean, that's one of their core offerings, right?
Yeah, the
Is
USDC.
Mhm.
Exactly. I think it's interesting that Tether got an audit from a big four accounting firm for what I don't know. I mean, I guess just to kind of show that they're good. Well, the funniest part is that Tether gave up on bringing USDT to the United States. They had their own version, USAT, which is a an American version of Tether. So, regardless, I think I think the fight is over. I don't think clarity is going to pass, and it's just going to lead into just more interesting movement. With that said, and I don't think you weren't here for this last week, um, Robert. We had this joint statement between the CFTC and the SEC where they pretty much brought a ton of clarity to what they were looking to do. That, to quote Chair Atkins, they're just looking to draw the framework, draw the lines, and then step back and just get out of the way. That's what the agency was meant to do. Them and the CFTC. They also said a whole bunch of crypto coins and crypto projects are commodities. They're not securities, which was huge. The only thing that could possibly be a security, certain types of airdrops overall, but that's still even a gray area. So overall, do we need clarity? Yes. Will we survive without it? Also, yes. We have so far. And we see a lot of bullish movement from institutions. Now, it's all a matter of, can we get everyday people to relive 2021 and come back down and be like, eh. I don't know how that's going to happen. Do you have any thoughts on how that might happen?
I thought that clarity was a big part of that.
Yeah.
To open up the door for more institutional capital to come in.
Mm-hmm.
It does. I mean, there's obviously institutional capital and building, bubbling up, for a couple of years now at least, or overall in general, right? But like, um, I still think that the Clarity Act, even if it is full of some pretty bad caveats, as Logan said here in the chat, um, it's I think it's going to be necessary to like bring back that level of excitement of 2021, just to have it there in place, even if it's not great. I mean, other than that, I don't see what else is going to drive the narrative besides big institutional investment. I mean, you have RWAs, you have agents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. I mean, like last time, a lot of it was NFTs. Like the whole term Web3 was very exciting and new. We need that sort of branding narrative moment, where it's something that gets retail excited again. And I don't see any super exciting retail narratives forming. So that's why I believe that if institutions can, if the Clarity Act passes, and that's enough for institutions to come in and put in a ton of capital, and that pumps price to a certain point. Let's say like that kicks off like the whatever the next bull market is. That's enough to bring retail in, and then people will just make up stories from there. But right now, I don't see any sort of like fun NFT Web3 style narrative forming in the space. I see mostly like rails and infrastructure being built, like how you've been covering for the past
Ever,
couple of
forever.
years.
I'll be honest. I think there's a couple products that can get people excited again. Um, Maybe
Maybe
not
prediction.
specifically in DeFi. Yeah, I mean that's where I'm going to be walking with this. Is
Mhm.
Sorry, let me just get the stats up.
I think that's the one thing. Yeah, prediction markets are like, yeah,
Yeah,
just like a Pandora's box of stuff that people can do in crypto.
yeah, and the reason why, right, is because most people will never see prediction markets as as crypto, right? In a lot of ways, how can you even equate to that? The idea with stuff like Polymarket and Kalshi, at least with Polymarket, when they started in the beginning, you actually had to have a wallet in order to vote, right? So they've patched that. Now you can just bring in money to get to you know, let's just call it bet on outcomes on anything using Polymarket or Kalshi. You can feed that wallet using anything. And let me see if I can highlight Logan's comment here. Sorry, add to broadcast. There we
That's a
go.
good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Logan with Stand with Crypto in Nebraska. They organization I'm working with very closely at this point. And yeah, so I do think that prediction markets, whether we know them as what they are now or what they will become, I do think become the biggest bridge. Because let's be honest about perps, right? I can regurgitate all kinds of stats about Hyperliquid every day, because Hyperliquid's going to eat everybody's lunch. They're going to continue to. It's just that good of a platform. It's fast, it's performant, it does everything that you want in DeFi, except the fact that they're still working on decentralization. But overall, the writing, in my opinion, is on the wall for overall usage of centralized exchanges. Once they get better, because you can, I guess it's there now. Phantom, MetaMask, and Rabby all have access to all the perps that are big on Hyperliquid. And the one thing that's big, and we talked about this last week, so Trade.xyz worked out a deal. Where am I typing? Where am I typing? Trade.xyz. Let's go. Trade.xyz has the official S&P 500 perp. This was huge news from last week. And you're going to see a lot of movement here, but mainly because of just a lot of geopolitical and macro things. I don't know if everybody really wants, I mean, this will be very popular, right? Because it's decentralized, anyone can do this. You don't have to own the asset, you're just playing the exposure. So for people who like exposure trading, using derivatives and stuff like that, at some point derivatives are just going to be the thing, right? Because we're tokenizing all the stocks, bonds, anything you can think of. They're looking to tokenize it and bring it on chain. Derivatives. These are all things that are going to be happening. Soon you're going to have your dividends hopefully available. So if you own a stock, you can have a digital twin of it on chain. And that's probably where the source of truth will come from at some point, so that you can actually cash out your dividends on chain, which would be amazing, in my opinion. The messy part after that is, frankly, how do you report all that? And that's the part that I think is going to trip a lot of people up for a while, because we don't have the legislation in place specifically for that to address it. Once we do, I think that's what brings a lot of retail back. But no, you're right. Prediction markets are going to be huge. Now, shout out to Fleck. Shout out to Lobster Dow. So he has this article here that I think is fascinating. The majority of people, there's like a big Venn diagram between Polymarket and Hyperliquid users. And for outcomes, Hyperliquid users, seems like a lot of them use a lot of Polymarket markets to do work. The part that's interesting here is that HIP-4, which is the Hyperliquid Improvement Protocol. HIP-3 is for system builder perps. So Trade.xyz, huge recipient of HIP-3. I mean, they're just getting tons of volume, like 225 million in the last 24 hours. That's a gigantic number, by the way, for the S&P 500 perp. And you can get 50x leverage on it. That's crazy. But HIP-4, which is outcomes, will bring smart contract based Hyperliquid core style outcomes to Hyperliquid core and HyperEVM mainnet. Once that happens, he thinks that it's going to wipe out Polymarket with regards to the amount of users that are using both right now, and probably just sticking on to Hyperliquid. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but Polymarket is doing everything in their power, same with Kalshi, to be relevant in the ethos of regular people in society, to the point that hopefully the branding will carry over. And HIP-4 coming online doesn't really change too much of that. The problem is, and again, not financial advice, do your own research. The best way to make money in prediction markets is with a bot. And I can tell you that because we're validating an offer for it right now. Doing it manually, yeah, it's fun. But just like with arbitrage, if you want to make money in this space, going on outcomes, speculating on that type of stuff, you're going to need a bot because you're not fast enough. You're too far from the latest data center with all the best information. You can make money. Please don't say that you can't. But if you want to have that edge, you're going to need a bot. And if most of those people are also using that bot on Hyperliquid, I don't know, man. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it works out. But maybe in 18 months, Hyperliquid comes out on top. Who knows? What do you think, Robert?
Are you saying that Hyperliquid is going to offer perps? I mean, not perps, sorry, prediction market at some point?
Yep, that's HIP4. Outcomes
Right.
is the
Okay.
name of the
Yeah.
actual.
So,
It's in testnet right now. It's almost ready.
I mean, I think as a product and as a platform, it has a leg up on Polymarket. What do you think about that?
Well, Polymarket's top 5% who also trade on Hyperliquid are a total of 2,000 wallets. And it's not that the number of wallets matters, it's the amount of money that matters here, right? In terms of just notional value, in terms of volume, there's some overlap there. So if you get that overlap and we don't have retail replacement for that, that could be bad for Polymarket and Kalshi and the others. We're talking about Myriad Markets, Opinion, Limitless on Base, other ones that are out there. Hyperliquid eating the lunch of perp dexes and prediction markets, that's something I didn't have on my 2026 bingo card, if I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I was getting at. Is I think I'd rather trade perps, not perps, prediction markets on Hyperliquid than Polymarket.
I would too. I'll be honest. And the reason for that is it's because it's DeFi, right? It's decentralized, and because out of the box, they will be on Hyperliquid Core. That means HyperEVM gets direct access to any asset on Hyperliquid Core, which means hedging your bets will be baked in out of the box. Yeah, it's one of those things where Hyperliquid will probably win infrastructure-wise, but Polymarket and Kalshi will do well with regular everyday people because they already are ingrained, right? CNN has Kalshi, NHL has Kalshi, Polymarket, well, Google has both. Yahoo has Polymarket. We saw Polymarket at the Golden Globes. They're inching their way into the everyday society, and they've got billions of dollars invested into them. So I don't see them going away because they've got the traction, they've got the marketing behind them, which is something that Hyperliquid does not have. Nor, frankly, do they need. They've been able to do all of this and gobble up nearly $3 billion in TVL without a ton of marketing, to be honest. They do some marketing, but they're the new darlings of DeFi. I mean, we used to say the GMX was the darling of DeFi, then Pendle, now Hyperliquid, and it's crazy to see the speed that this thing is moving. I mean, look at, and shout out to Drift Protocol. We used to talk about Drift a lot on Solana. They had bet on Drift, which was an early prediction market. Why did they give up on that? Frankly, it makes no sense to me. They could have, and now Kalshi's on Solana, so it's just like they had him in it, and maybe they just couldn't get the right resources. But man, I'll share this article from Fleck. Again, shout out to Fleck, shout out to Lobster DAO, where he posted this and I read this. So yeah, big kind of stuff. We'll go ahead and move on. I'll briefly go over this. I don't think anyone in our community was affected by this, but Resolve had a very big problem. 4 days ago, we posted immediately in our communities about this. All of the actions that have been taken. So there really wasn't much that we could do. The only thing we were really worried about here was debt contagion. So USR is Resolve stablecoin. They also have RLP, which is an LP system with a coin. A lot of what they do is delta neutral, but they've had a pretty decent following. They have decent liquidity across most of DeFi. They didn't get to say that they got exploited is kind of a misnomer because the function that was exploited worked exactly as it's meant to do. So, and I have the wrong tweet up here, but let me find it real quick and we'll move over to it. In essence, the minter of USR, which is a specified role. The private key for the wallet that governs that got exposed. Not sure how. They're still figuring that out. Someone came and minted 80 million USR tokens and then just started dumping it in the open market. USR went to 15 cents at one point. It depegged that badly. Now, stablecoins depegging, that happens. It's everything tied to it. So Gauntlet, Yo, Fluid, all had exposure through Morpho, which is kind of crazy because the actual risk curator for Resolve is Steakhouse with the big risk curator. They had no exposure, and I'm like, that's weird. That is weird. But overall, it's these second order effects, not effects, that have a lot of people worried. Now, with that said, Resolve has gone through and said that the majority of the group has allowed redemptions for this. And they even talk about exactly what happened here. And looks like they're trying to work with the actual explorer. They put a message out on Etherscan. So the majority of this is on Ethereum mainnet, and we don't really talk too much about ETH mainnet in our content. It's mostly layer 2s and alt L1s like Avalanche, Plasma, Tempo, Solana, that type of thing. So we don't really talk too much about layer 1 Ethereum. But that doesn't mean that this couldn't bleed over. So we're still watching because I don't know if the rest of the contagion's done, but just kind of we'll continue to update the community if we see more things that happen. But man, when you see stuff like this, Robert, it's just it's gut punching in a way, right? Because
yeah,
it's not that yes, the private key got exposed, so the OPSEC was not great there. But the part that people aren't talking about, that people aren't really addressing as much, is that there's no cap to what the minter can do, and because they had a multi-sig on the protocol, they couldn't pause the protocol for 4 hours because they were waiting for enough people. Because by the time it happened, I think everyone was asleep. Yeah, it happened at like, let's call it 5 a.m. UTC. So, shout out to Yam, Yields and More. They were on top of it immediately. And Morpho and Gauntlet have been talking to Resolve, and they're working things out for a compensation plan. But how do you not have a cap on that? How do you let someone just mint that many tokens without woo-woo? Hey.
How is the minting not a multi-sig also?
Well, there's well, I mean, because then you'd have to wait for people to allow people to actually mint USR tokens, right? It's not that, because it's role based. The fact that there is really no cap on it, or at least something to say, hey, we'll get you a little bit. Not that we necessarily want that, because that also makes it kind of fractional banking like, right? Like here's a little bit of it. We'll get the rest of you to you within like 6 to 12 hours. I'm sure that's fine for most people, but at the same time, it's like. But they had a breakdown in OPSEC, and they also had an unchecked cap. Either way, we'll see how badly this works out. I hope it's all contained, but debt contagion is an interesting thing, especially with market makers and risk curators and vaults. Um, I'm probably going to make the call to avoid Morpho for a little bit in our communities. Nothing against Morpho, of course, but until we can be sure that all of the risk curators here have done their due diligence moving forward, it's a little bit too risky for my taste right now. Speaking of that, last thing before BitTensor, uh, Optimism. I want to call him Base's little brother. I can't do that. That's not nice. They have announced Vision Chain in collaboration with European regulated exchange Bitpanda. Well, it's nice to know that users in the EU can now use DeFi, I guess, using this chain, and it uses zk proofs. That's the other part that's nice. It uses zk proofs from Succinct Labs. You can pay gas in Euro stablecoins. That's nice. Very low latency, thanks to their block technology. They're on the OP superchain with Bedrock, and there's compliance controls for deposit. Oh, eh. I don't know. You wanted to live in the EU. What do you think about this?
It's all right, I guess. Yeah.
I guess this means you're going to have to. Do you have to report everything? I'm guessing so.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, it's the EU, so there's a high likelihood. Yes, you know.
they're going to have great vision into your assets. That's for sure, because it's all regulated with EU. So,
Yeah, no, the EU's regulatory nightmare. Yeah.
if you want to learn more, tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, they're having a space. Uh, when they say institutional grade infrastructure, that's never a good sign for the everyday user. They're like, oh, so I'm gonna have to be Reg Z or Reg D, right? So like totally like accredited, like 1 million liquid or 350,000 annual fiat currency. So we'll see. Anyway, congrats to them. I'm curious to see what it looks like, what it means. Uh, but I wanted to talk to you specifically about what's going on with Tau. So we had Luke on last week, and I asked him, I'm like, tell me why Tau is up 119%. It dipped down as low as what, $165, and now it is surging. So let's kind of talk about exactly how that kind of happened. Let's walk through the timeline. So, and this is Jason Calacanis. If you don't know who, this is Thread Guy, but Jason Calacanis, who's a very long time angel investor. Um, I've been following him for years. He did post this: Tau is greater than BTC. Ironically, Tau has the same tokenomics as BTC, 21 million cap, halvings every so often. They just had their first one last November, I believe. And yeah, it dipped down to 165. For those of you who are not familiar with BitTensor, BitTensor started out as a really fun decentralized AI project on Akash. And then they kind of formed their own chain and now is made up of a bunch of working groups called subnets. And each of these subnets can create a decentralized, well, rather an AI commodity that's run on community hardware native to the BitTensor ecosystem. If you want to be a part of it, you could. There's 128 plus subnets doing AI work on all kinds of things, right? Inference, even things like game assets, trying to solve complex diseases, that type of thing. Weather, sports betting. Our friends at Taushi, Luke, and Ken. Taushi is the proprietary trade network. They do signals that are for both forex and regular traditional finance and other commodities, using their miner models. There's a wide variety of different projects that are out there. It's like the internet of AI is really what it is, and that's kind of what's propelled Tau up the chain. But it wasn't until last week when NVIDIA had their big keynote. Afterwards, Chamath from the All In podcast had Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, on, and he talked to him specifically about Templar. Let me get Templar. That's subnet number 3. I really should have had this up. Nope, that's not nope, nope. Templar Tau. Clearly, I don't know where I'm supposed to be going here. Subnet number 3, which is Templar. Well, anyway, this is it. There, TPLRAI. Why don't I follow them? Why don't I follow the All In podcast? Regardless. So, this is the moment that happened last week, Robert. He had him on. Covenant, which is their model there at Templar, has a 72 billion parameter model now that's out that runs on commodity infrastructure on subnet 3 with 70 plus miners. The fact that they got to a 72 billion parameter engine is what Jensen Huang called a pretty crazy technical accomplishment. You can certainly thank Chamath if you're not doing capital loss type of stuff, where he's totally been memeing about. But this is huge. Oh wow, Arash is there, who's the CEO of Taoshi. But yeah, this is big. This caused the different things that we've been seeing, like with what Jason Calacanis has been saying. Other people, Mark Jeffrey, we met him in Austin at BitTensor Endgame. There's a couple of different big groups. I mean, obviously, we don't have to talk about people like Barry Silbert. Almost, yeah, that's weird. Anyway, with Yuma and all the things they're doing on Capitol Hill to get all of this looked into. Yeah, BitTensor is making waves. And it's not just that they have this. This is one of 128 plus groups doing different types of AI super commodities. And we've been bullish on BitTensor forever. I mean, Robert, you worked in that ecosystem for quite some time. You still do. So, what are your thoughts on this update in terms of people talking about Tau, people talking about Templar, people very interested in decentralized AI?
I think this is a special moment where we're starting to get people's attention. I mean, that interview, I think they tried to kind of wedge it in there
Yeah.
to get them to answer the question. But they still succeeded in getting people talking about it. So, mission accomplished there. Yeah, I've been always, in the ecosystem, been digging into it, even more recently. And, I think the ultimate goal is for them to kind of have this kind of unicorn moment where all these different subnets performing, very efficient alternatives, decentralized alternatives to the big 3 or 4 AI companies, is going to be eventually to put together a coherent product that actually competes. And there's also the question of kind of the guardrails and safety features that the centralized versions have. Is this going to be more like is this going to ultimately become more like a DeepSeek kind of product,
Right.
where it's more open source and there's less restrictions? Or yeah, but I mean, it's definitely entering the zeitgeist more and more.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it, because the issue is that, well, the reason why we need decentralized AI obviously is the very basic part. We don't want DeepSeek, we don't want OpenAI, we don't want Anthropic, Google. I'm sure I'm missing somebody else. We don't want any of the big 5 owning decentralized, owning AI. Period. Right? We shouldn't have that. All your money shouldn't be flying to that. I would love to be able to use multiple parts of BitTensor subnets, and I know we're getting there, to be able to do a lot of what's going on there, specifically on in BitTensor. They have an access problem. I think it's probably well known. They have a marketing problem. That's also well known. And both you and I have worked pretty tirelessly to try and get as much shine on BitTensor subnets. And again, not because we're completely biased, but because we're really bullish on the technology, if I'm being very honest. The idea that you can have multiple groups, creating revenue generating products. That's the difference, right? These are all revenue generating products for the most part, right? There's some research stuff, but overall, things like Gaia, which does weather, they're selling that information to, the Weather Channel and all of their umbrella of different companies using sensors like IoT stuff from everywhere. There are people that sell that information to Gaia, and Gaia models it and sells that out to different groups. So there's a bunch of different commodities that are being represented here in BitTensor that absolutely deserve the attention of the world. Now, they're going to need something to make it easy. It's easier to get the coins for each subnet, the alpha tokens, because they're now on major CEXs. They're also on base blockchain, thanks to Project Rubicon. Groups like Void, groups like Sturdy, have all made that a lot easier. BitTensor AVM SideNet, because BitTensor itself is technically a Polkadot-based infrastructure with Substrate.
Substrate,
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited. This is some of the really bullish stuff that I'm really hoping we get to see more of soon. Because again, as great as seeing Claude Code, Gemini, all of these different products, Codex, I want to see decentralization and permissionless type of mechanisms win, because it's better for the world overall, right? We don't have to let one or two big groups, and this applies to AI, this applies to banks, this applies to everything. We generally prefer these free markets, but the trust factor is the hard part. We still want authoritative trust. Once we can kind of get past that, get self-hosting, self-regulating type stuff, people, I think, will start to turn and realize the beauty of it. And anyway, we could talk about this for hours, and strangely, we've already talked about it for more than an hour. I can't believe that, actually. I was just like, yeah, if we go 45 minutes, I'll be happy. But maybe it's because we just kept talking.
Well, I think in there's one more quick thing on the AI thing. Like, I think people don't necessarily want like the moralizing of the AI, the baked-in moralizing necessarily,
Right.
but they do want protections against people using it to build like weapons and stuff like that. So I mean, like, there's some sort of like libertarian free speech fine line there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess
No,
that'll
completely agree.
shake out as time goes on.
Again, thanks, Robert, for being here. Check out our free group if you want to learn a little bit more. If you like what you're hearing, please like, follow, and subscribe. Please like, follow Robert, Omega _ 84 on Twitter.
That's
School.com/beacons, our free group here for Total Value Locked, the namesake of this podcast from here, Beacon DeFi, which is our educational and onboarding company. We've helped tens of thousands of people get into decentralized finance and on-chain finance safely and securely over the last 5 years. If you want to learn a little bit more, please click on the Start Here post. You'll get a message from myself and our CEO, Andrew, and you'll get access to our free content, but also more details about our paid content. So if you want to join, if you want to make your first dollar in DeFi in the first 40 hours, you can take our Beacon Challenge. If you want to check out the best rates we have available in DeFi, that's our Beacon Spotlight subscription. And then we also have our Beacon Mastermind. We get one-on-one mentoring with me, weekly calls, and access to, be amongst the best investors that are out there, all making great passive income through the content they've learned here at Beacon DeFi. So again, absolutely free to join. Total Value Locked. School.com/beacon. And I know I've already said it. I already said it, and I apologize for that. Robert, please tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, again on X, Omega _ 84.
Mm-hmm.
Or else Telegram, Omega _ 84. It's fine. You can DM me if you want. Yeah, right now just really exploring the BitTensor ecosystem. I think my next role is likely going to be there. So
nice. And BitTensor's great. I'm a big fan. I've been a big fan since the beginning. Obviously, they've had some interesting changes this year. They had their first halving. They went to a new model, which has alpha subnet tokens, thanks to the Ventura fork. Was last February, and yeah, I mean, I think the next big thing is how are they going to get the rest of the subnets to kind of rise up and do new things. That'll be something that I think is kind of core to what they need to do, because right now I think they're locked in at 128. I think they want to expand that to even more groups looking to build on community infrastructure. Um, yeah, really excited to see what happens. Excited to see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Again, thanks for tuning in today, guys. Please like, follow, subscribe. Would love to meet some new milestones. Thanks to your support. We do this call every Wednesday around 1 p.m. Eastern. We've been doing this show every week since December 2021. So we've been talking about the news and trying to educate you on our takes and how you should possibly consider looking at things for quite some time. This Friday, speaking of Logan, who is in the comments, I will be interviewing him on 3 p.m. Eastern, because he represents the local chapter, at least to me, for Stand With Crypto. We'll learn a little bit more about what Stand With Crypto does and why it's important for you to be a delegate and stand with us for better policy with regards to blockchain here in the United States of America. Even if you don't and you're curious about what U.S. policy actually is right now and what people are doing, please feel free to tune in to our community training that happens every Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern. It's called Beat the Banks. We've been doing that show since January of 2022. So we're here every week trying to educate and put out good content for you guys. Any feedback, please feel free to reach out. Would love to take that. Anyway, we will see you next week with another great panel. We see you on the show. Beacons up. Banks down. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend.